Answers Obama should beat the hell out of him. The president is like a guap boy with bad. And the media, we are above the law. You are not above the law.
That's on Top Story tonight, brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can, and Gassem, the nation builder. Thanks for your company. Tonight, lawyers of the Multimedia Group have filed a complaint at the police CID asking for investigation and protection for its journalist, Erastus Asare-Donkor. And this follows threats by Chairman of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, Kennedy Japan, and on the life of our journalist. And that's the reason why this letter has gone out. In the complaint, the company refers to similar threats by the MP on the life of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale. We all remember that. And eventually led to his death. He was shot. And says it's taking this threat against Erastus Asare-Donkor very seriously. It has therefore copied several organizations, including the presidency, Parliament, National Security, and the IGP. Is a tall list. We'll go through it. The Asin Central MP, Kennedy Japan, also made allegations that some staff of Joy FM have taken money from some MPP officials. But that's not my focus tonight on Top Story. We'll still deal with that issue another time on another platform. But let's first listen to the comment made by Kennedy Japan against my colleague Erastus Asare-Donkor.
Ebia, me chairman of Defense and Interior. Asem we no be nyina obi antimenka ene. Let me start with Ejura. So, Ejura ene briefing, enra minya briefing ene nyina. So say Ejura, even the MP is a member of the Defense and Interior Committee. Although there were SSs, he said it plainly, said, I didn't hear politics, and I hear politics. Now, me means that me no Kragu hospital was a bako, a can nine bako, a born her. On one casa a Jura MP, catching us away MP before. But I've said it several times. I'm saying it here again. Say, and Tokaba Gama ha, a media for false reportage. You're ready. ABS baby. And we are not different. Rwanda, media for over 800,000 people died. Her false reportage from Joy FM. They have to be careful. You want to destroy the nation. Now, this boy should be beaten seriously. It's so annoying. Some journalists answers Obama should beat the hell out of him. The president is like a guap boy with bad. And the media, we are above the law. You are not above the law. Because obi akukumninuya, and you go and report say we have fixed the country activists, and or you should work mob and akukum. What do you gain? And then nipa mienu say enti nipa miensa and ewu Joy FM. She be ashamed of yourself.
And that's Parliament's chairman of the Defence and Interior Committee, Kennedy Japan, also the Asin Central MP, speaking on his own platform about my colleague Erastus Asare-Donkor, amongst others. He says that he should be beaten seriously. He's so annoying. They should beat the hell out of him. If he were the president, he would order his beating, and makes reference to his submission at the Ejira Committee. Well, there's a statement tonight from the Multimedia Group, from our lawyers on behalf of the team. And Joy News editor Israel Lai is here with me tonight to go through that statement. Israel, thank you very much. Let's go through the statement as put out, what's containing it.
All right, so the letter is actually dated July 13, 2021, and it's addressed to the Deputy Regional Commander, Ghana Police Service, Ashanti Regional Police Headquarters, Edum Kumasi, and the attention of the Regional Crime Officer, Ashanti Regional Police Headquarters, Edum Kumasi, is also drawn to this. So it goes, DSA, and the title is Formal Complaint Against Honorable Kennedy Ohene Ejepong for Threats Against the Life of Erastus Asare-Donkor, a journalist at Multimedia Group. The attention of Multimedia Group Limited and its journalist, Erastus Asare-Donkor, has been drawn to life-threatening comments that Kennedy Ohene Ejepong, Member of Parliament for the Asin Central Constituency and the Chairman of the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament, has made about Erastus Asare-Donkor. Those comments were made on the Attitude program aired on July 9, 2021 on the 2 TV, the television station owned by Kennedy Ohene Ejepong, and the content of the program was streamed live and widely published on social media platforms. In the said video, a copy of which has been attached, the Honourable Member of Parliament has heard raining insults on Erastus Asare Donko. Honourable Enijepong is also called for the serious beating of Erastus Asare Donko, asserted that we should, quote, we should beat the hell out of Erastus Asare Donko, and threatened that if he, Honourable Ejepong, were the president of Ghana, he would have ensured that Erastus Asare Donko is beaten mercilessly. Honourable Ejepong launched the above scathing attacks and threats on Erastus Asare Donko's life because of the journalistic work that the latter undertook during the recent shootings and killing incident at Ejura and his appearance before the Kingsley Kumsing Committee investigating the incident. Sir, you may recall that sometime in the recent past, Honourable Ejepong issued similar threats against Ahmed Hussein Swale, who at the time had undertaken some journalistic works. Ahmed Hussein Swale was later horribly killed. In the above circumstances, we wish to file this formal complaint of threat by Honourable Ejepong against the life of Erastus Asare Donko and request that this complaint is investigated and Erastus Asare Donko given the required protection. Sir, having regard to the status of Honourable Kennedy Ejepong, the national security implications of the comment, and the lessons from the recent history of a similar comment, we are by copies of this letter informing the underlisted persons of the content hearing, and I'll come to the underlisted persons shortly. We hope that the content of this letter will be given the urgent attention it deserves. And the letter is signed by James Agla, who's General Manager, Love FM and Insure FM, and also signed by Kofi Dudonfe, who's News Editor, Love FM and Insure FM. And it's copied to...
I'm sure you'll go through that list. It starts with the Chief of Staff, Office of the President, Jubilee House. Who else is on that statement?
And then we also have the Speaker of Parliament through the Clerk of Parliament, Parliament House, Accra. His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Tutu II, Asante Hene, through the Chief of Staff, Misha Palace Kumasi. Then the Ashanti Regional Minister, Regional Coordinating Council Office Kumasi, the Minister of National Security Ministries, Accra, the Minister of Interior Ministries, Accra, the Inspector General of Police, National Police Headquarters, the Director of CID, National Police Headquarters, Accra. Now, the others are the Executive Secretary, National Media Commission, Accra, the President, Ghana Journalists Association, the Country Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Human Rights Watch, New York, USA, Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, New York, USA, International Federation of Journalists, IFJ, Washington, D.C., and the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj, Accra.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Israel Lai. That's the Joy News editor taking us through that statement issued by the Multimedia Group. You would understand why every seriousness must be attached to this particular issue, because we recall how Ahmed Hussein Swale was killed under similar circumstances. We had this man who is not, he wasn't the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee back then. He was the MP, Asin Central MP, still MP, but now he's the chairman of Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, and he made similar comment on his platform that led to the death of Ahmed Hussein Swale. That matter, we are still yet to get hell out of Erastus Asare Donko, and threatened that if he were the president of Ghana, he would have ensured that Erastus Asare Donko is beaten mercilessly. These were comments that he made. I also stated earlier that he also mentioned that some staff of Joy FM are alleged to have taken some monies from some MPP officials. That is another issue that we'll be dealing with, because that's not the focus tonight. We're dealing with the threat first, then later we can get into other matters that he's been talking about. But let's bring in the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. My colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo is on standby with the MP, James Agalga. He sits on that committee with him. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, if you can hear me, you're on standby with Mr. James Agalga.
But we didn't get the time.
Okay, so we'll rectify that and then speak shortly to James Agalga. There have been some condemnation of this as well, and all these groupings have been copied about this particular threat issued on Erastus Asare Donko. You've heard that we've copied the Chief of Staff. We are yet to hear from the GJA on this. They've also been copied on this, but we are yet to hear anything in particular. Up to 14 institutions and personalities have been copied on this particular threat. But let's bring in Mr. Kenashibe. He is a voice for the media as well. We are grateful for your time here on Top Story, Mr. Kenashibe. I'm sure you must have heard the Chairman of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee on this threat on Erastus Asare Donko. First, though, your thoughts.
Well, Emefa, thank you very much. I saw the video some time back on a platform, and I didn't even see the full one. I had not heard, all the issues. So this morning, when one of the senior journalists also called me in the morning and was talking about this. You see, the challenge I have is the fact that the Honorable Member of Parliament was sitting on the media house and making these allegations. And they're not only just allegations. And the challenge for me is that even the allegations, I am struggling to see where the lies, is it the fact that we're covering a live event? But even given that even any media, any journalist makes an error, when did it become that it is about beating journalists? It's about, who gave the power to the president even to beat a journalist? I thought that the Parliament was a place where our laws are made, and that when you even think somebody has done you wrong, you go to the police, you go through the processes, and, fortunately for us, it's the MPP under the current president that repealed the criminal libel law. So even the criminality of the work of the journalist is no more, thanks to the president and his government. And so you then definitely have roots to which you seek redress. So definitely this is definitely not acceptable. We keep on saying that journalism is not a crime. Practicing that trade of journalism is not a crime. So I'm very happy that the multimedia has taken this very, very seriously. It is important that, we ensure that what happened to Ahmed Swale does not repeat itself again, because it was in the same circumstances. And when these things happen, and when people who have the power of radio get access to them and they say these things, they don't know who will take them up and then go and execute them. And you see, when the Honorable Minister makes reference to the situation of Rwanda, he forgets, he does not go to look into the history of that. It was a politician who misused the media that caused that to happen. And we should definitely not allow that to be happening. So we need to deal with two institutions. We need to deal with two entities here. And I'm hoping that the MMC, because now they have a mechanism for dealing with that. And then not only is it that they have a mechanism, but you actually have copied them on this. And they will take this up. I am also hoping that the police and the national security establishment would ensure that they provide all the protection that are necessary for Erastus to continue to do his work. I pray that all journalists, all media houses, look at this thing and will look at it very dispassionately. It has nothing to do with what side of the divide. It has to do with a threat to a journalist. And we forget that when we threaten journalists, it is our individual rights that it's basically we cutting our tongues and eating it and thinking we have meat. It is important that journalists will be able to do their work as mandated by the Constitution to hold leadership to account. The only way they'll be able to do that is in an atmosphere that is free of such threats. And all of these go to affect, our standing, which we have built, with everybody has been part of this. Built to a point where we are considered as a nation where, there's freedom of speech and journalists are be able to work. But we cannot have an honorable minister, an honorable member of parliament who is head of a powerful, committee like this, making such statement. When did it become that when you commit, even, you commit murder in Ghana, it is not for people to beat you up. It's for you to go through the entire rigors of the law. So I'm happy this has happened, and I'm hoping, for me, it's not just GJ, I'm hoping that all of us media will take this thing particularly up and ensure that we push it till we get redress.
Okay, well, but there are those who say that the media always want to criticize, but do not want to be criticized. I've heard Mr. Ejapong in that video also mention that the reportage, as put out by Erastus Asare Donko, led to the death of these two persons, that for which reason the Ejura Committee is reporting. You are independent. What exactly, or watching what Erastus did that day, led to the death of these two persons? Are you able to criticize us openly?
No, you see the point, and that is definitely a point that we need to establish. Journalists are not above reproach. If they go wrong, they have to be criticized. But for me, I struggle with that, and I have had this conversation with people. So you have a journalist who is covering an event live. And if I listen to what happened at the sitting of Parliament, they then were questioning a tag that had been put on, the reportage of Erastus. And then, but you and I know that when you are sitting, a live coverage, it's teamwork. So that producers, that directors of that show that are directing that. So if you have a director that has seen this particular gentleman make statements where he has referred to, fix the country, and this is a movement, and we should bear that in mind. It is a movement. It is not an association that you join. And then they say that, and that is that. And for me, when I listened to bits and pieces of the coverage, the critique was on that particular tag that had been put on it, not even what Erastus has said. But then you also have to also go playback and say that the journalist is covering an event live. So is it that people went home to go and listen and watch the coverage of that event and then came back to come and misbehave? We saw the misbehavior happening. We saw everything happening. The police come, the military come, as that was unfolding. So definitely when you look at the logic of that, the nexus between the death, and I'm hoping the committee will find that out, and the reportage as was going on, definitely could not have been that could not have, and if it's the lies, the fact that it was tagged, that he was a fix the country movement person. And then we have seen also, if you go onto his Facebook wall, there are videos there that he's actually made references out of that. So I don't see that nexus happening, between that. But definitely if a journalist gets something wrong, we should say it. But in this particular case, I completely disagree. And even if something had gone wrong, the cure of it cannot be beat the journalist, cannot be the threat, the open threat of a journalist by such an influential figure as the chairman for the Security and Interior and Security Defense Committee of Parliament. That can definitely not be the cure.
But do you foresee anything or any action really being taken against Mr. Kennedy Ejapong in this particular case?
It would depend, on what multimedia has started and what all of journalists also do. Because you see, it is important that we realize that, when we sat back and Ahmed Swale happened, we sat back and Latif, it used to happen. We sit back and all of these happen and we don't do anything about it. It's not just about the journalists. It's about all of us, our democracy. Yes, let's hold journalists to account. If they do wrong, we should point it out to them. And there's some things that are not right about journalism that we need to deal with. But when you have journalists, and especially most of the time, it's not even the journalists who do the wrong. It's the critical media who are attacked. And if you allow this to happen, we are eroding the very fundamentals and the basis of our democracy. In this particular case, I completely disagree with the Honourable Member of Parliament. I think he definitely got it wrong.
Well, Mr. Ken Ashigbe, we're indeed grateful for your time. That's Ken Ashigbe there reacting to that threat by the chairman of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, Ken Ohini Ejapong, against my colleague Erastus Asare Donko. And there's a statement in the last few minutes from the multimedia group petitioning the police, CID, on this particular threat, asking for investigation and then also protection for Erastus Asare Donko. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is on standby with the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Ogalga. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, if you can hear me, what's been the reaction of Mr. Ogalga, especially, or the committee, to this particular development?
Well, essentially, he has a very brief response. He says they will await the official communication from the multimedia group as far as this complaint is concerned, which we know the Speaker of Parliament is copied in And then once that gets to them at the level of the committee, they would be able to then take it up with leadership and other individuals as far as the legislative arm is concerned. But he refuses any further public comment on the issue until Parliament is seized with it officially as far as the said letter that the multimedia group has dispatched is concerned.
What would you say is the general talk amongst those who were closely with Mr. Ejapong, knowing that this is not the first time he's issued such threats? We know about the Ahmed Hussein Swale situation. He made those threats. Later, the man was horribly killed. What really is the talk amongst them on this particular threat also?
And on that particular bit with regards to Ahmed Swale, you recall that it became an issue that went to the the Privileges Committee of Parliament. It was raised on the floor and eventually referred to the Privileges Committee. The committee did look into it. Eventually, no sanctions eventually applied to him. So that right here in Parliament, then the conversation is that it's about time that possibly the House takes a very decisive action and do what is necessary and make sure that such an act is not repeated. And the concern being that it's one way or the other brings the name of the House into disrepute, which some of the MPs that have interacted with find very worrying.
Okay, that's Joseph Opoku Gakpo, a parliamentary correspondent there. For members of the Defense and Interior Committee, they would wait for the official communication because the Speaker has also been served in this particular letter. He's been petitioned as well on the action of one of his chairmen of a committee, very important committee, Defense and Interior Committee, on this threats that is issued. The Chief of Staff, Office of the President, have also been copied in this. We are yet to hear from the Information Ministry on this as well. His Royal Majesty Otumfuo to the second, through the Chief of Staff, Menchia Palace, also copied in this letter. The Ashanti Regional Minister, Regional Coordinating Council, Office Kumasi, has also been copied. The Minister for National Security, the Ministries Accra, also copied. The Minister of Interior has also been copied in this. The IGP himself has also been copied. The Director of CID, the National Police Headquarters, also copied. The Executive Secretary, National Media Commission, the President, Ghana Journalists Association, the Country Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Human Rights Watch, New York, USA, also copied. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, New York, USA, and then the International Federation of Journalists, IFJ, Washington, D.C., USA, also copied in this. So briefly, what we've been putting out is a 8-pointer communication written by or signed by James Agla, General Manager, Love FM and Inshira FM, and also Kofi Edudomfe, News Editor, Love FM and Inshira FM. Eraso Sasaridonko works closely under him. So we are drawing the attention of Multimedia Group Limited and its journalist, Eraso Sasaridonko, has been drawn to life-threatening comments that Kennedy Ohene Ejapong, Member of Parliament for the Asin Central constituency and the Chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, has made about Eraso Sasaridonko. So those comments were made on the Attitude program, aired on July 9, 2021 on Net2 TV, the television station owned by Kennedy Ohene Ejapong, and the content of the program was streamed live and widely published on social media platforms. So in the said video, a copy of which has been attached to this particular letter, the Honourable Member of Parliament is heard raining insults on Eraso Sasaridonko. Honourable Ejapong, amongst others, stated he called for the serious beating of Eraso Sasaridonko. Also asserted that we should beat the hell out of Eraso Sasaridonko, and threatened that if he, Honorable Ejapong, or should I say Kennedy Ejapong, were the president of Ghana, he would have ensured that Eraso Sasaridonko is beaten mercilessly. He goes on, that statement goes on to say that Honorable Ejapong launched the above scathing attacks and threats on Eraso Sasaridonko's life because of the journalistic work that the latter undertook during the recent shootings and killing incident at Ijura, and his appearance before the Kingsley Kumsin Committee investigating this incident. Sir, you may recall that sometime in the recent past, this is very important, Honorable Ejapong issued similar threats against Ahmed Hussein Swale, who at the time had undertaken some journalistic works. Ahmed Swale was later horribly killed, and that matter is still under investigation. We are yet to find out who actually perpetrated that act. Point 6 says, in the above circumstances, we wish to file this formal complaint of threat by Honorable Ejepong against the life of Erastus Asare Donko and request that this complaint is investigated and Erastus Asare Donko giving the required protection. Sir, having regard to the status of Honorable Kennedy Ohini Ejepong, the national security implications of the comment, and the lessons from the recent history of a similar comment, we are by copies of this letter informing the underlisted persons of the contents herein. We hope that the content of this letter will be given the urgent attention it deserves. So duly a notice has been served all the way from the presidency down to the GJA, International Federation of Journalists, Washington, D.C., USA. I hope it is our fervent prayer that nothing happens to Erastus Asare Donko, because all he did was to bring us live happenings in Nigeria. Elsewhere, he would have been a hero. If anything happens to Erastus Asare Donko, as much as an ant bites, we know where to go and who to hold accountable for it. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. Gassem, the nation builder. I am Emefa Apawu. News Night comes up shortly after this. Please stay.
55, 78, 58, 78. Hey, Charlie. My network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis.
Charges alone just to send money? That's $10 of cement already, my guy. Listen, bro, you can save money on charges if you move to Vodafone Cash now.
Vodafone Cash? But my network is...
Hey, sending money on that your network, you pay. Sending money on your network to other networks, you pay. But guess what? Sending money on Vodafone Cash is free. Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is also absolutely free. No charges at all on Vodafone Cash. So tell me, what are you still doing on that your network? Massa, look sharp, then move to Vodafone Cash.
Hey, make a change the SIM right now.
Yeah, sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is now absolutely free. Send unlimited amounts of money as many times as you like for free. Just dial *110# now to send money.
Let me explain in here. I'm a mistake.